What's your kindest hidden act? When I was young, I used to always give the coin machines a quick turn on the way into shops, hoping for a surprise. I got lucky a few times and scored some free little toys. Now that I'm an adult, whenever I'm leaving a store with spare coins, I enjoy slipping them into those machines and leaving them partly turned for the next person. I quietly leave pennies around. For many years, my uncle would stop and pick up every single penny he spotted, which used to drive my aunt crazy because she feared the neighbors might think they were struggling financially. Needing every cent they could get, they would joke with each other about it. My uncle eventually got cancer and passed away after a tough, drawn-out battle. After the funeral, as we were walking back to the car, my aunt noticed a penny on the ground and said, "Oh, John is thinking of me, he left this penny for me today." So whenever I'm with my aunt, I deliberately drop pennies on the ground for her to discover. I haven't been caught yet, and I really hope I never am. My almost 16-year-old son believes he's saving up for a car. He's actually saved around $11,000, but he doesn't know that I'm going to buy him a car and he can use that money for something else instead. I'm taking my daughters to McDonald's and then to the movies after school today. They have no clue. They think we're heading straight home to do some spring cleaning, which I already finished earlier. I can barely hold in my excitement. I'm so thrilled. What's the silliest thing someone has ever argued with you about? I once saw a couple break up over whether a chicken could be considered a pet. They got into a really intense fight, which ended up with them hitting each other. Eventually, both turned to me and asked for my take. I said, why couldn't a chicken be a pet? I've seen videos of people keeping chickens as pets. The girl got furious at my response and had to step outside for a cigarette to calm down. After that, she stopped talking to me completely because I had agreed with him. It was intense. I work at a place where if you have a child under 18 and your household income is below a certain level, you're eligible for a grant to assist with childcare. A woman comes in and I explain that based on her income, she qualifies for this grant. She says she doesn't want it. I tell her it's a grant she'll never have to repay, unlike her tuition fees and maintenance loan. She still doesn't want it because her child is 13 and can manage on her own. I say I understand, but explain that it's available to everyone who meets the criteria, so it's essentially free money to support families with children. She still refuses. In the end, I asked her if I offered her £2,000 that she would never have to pay back, as long as she could show her child depends on her, would she accept it? She said yes, obviously. I told her that's exactly what this childcare grant is. She still didn't want it. All-you-can-eat buffet workers, what are your craziest stories? Not exactly a horror story, just funny. One time I worked at Wendy's when they had salad bars. You could get a small serving bowl they used for soup and chili, and the bigger ones doubled as chili bowls or full platters. The taco salad came on a large base plate. On a slow afternoon, this guy came in and took a small bowl. After a few minutes, our manager quietly motioned to me and the guy at the sandwich station to check out the salad he was building. The man had filled the bowl with salad, then created a border of overlapping cucumber slices to raise the edges higher. He added more salad on top, then another ring of cucumbers. It took him several minutes, but by the end he had built a massive salad tower over a foot tall, held together by multiple cucumber rings. It was an impressive feat of engineering. He carefully carried it back to his table, sat down, and looked up nervously as our manager approached. The manager handed him a free item coupon and said, "That is the most impressive salad I've ever seen. Your next one is on me. What secret do you keep from your family that you'll take to your grave?" My mother was very ill in 2008. I was turning 25 and had a younger brother and sister. We had lost both of my grandparents on my mom's side to cancer a few years earlier. Mom had watched her parents slowly pass away, and it broke her, especially not having her own mother around since they were so close. My mom was in and out of the hospital for 6 months from summer through fall of 2008. There were a couple of times when her blood was septic. She recovered, but the doctors kept running tests. One day I stopped by the hospital to see her. The doctor was in the room when I entered. He told her she had cancer and that chemo might help, but it would mean dealing with it for the unknown future. My mom told me she wasn't going to pursue any treatment. She said no matter what, she was going to be home for the holidays and that I couldn't tell anyone what the doctor had said. I never told a soul. She left the hospital like it was a normal day. Thanksgiving arrived and she gave a speech before the meal about how much she loved everyone and started crying. I knew why, but everyone else thought it was just because she felt so blessed. Shortly after Christmas, she passed away. She got her final wish to spend the holidays with the family. After she died, the doctor told everyone that cancer was the cause. I never said anything to anyone then, and I still haven't to this day. What's a revenge you carried out that affected the person way more than you expected, to the point you regretted it? I'm still upset with myself about this. When I was a preteen, my friend and I went to a day camp that picked us up in yellow school buses. There was another kid on our bus, a younger boy I'll call Eli. Eli was a total nightmare. He would scream, spit, hump things, make messes, and be as irritating and unbearable as possible. Riding the bus with him was awful for everyone, so I came up with a plan. I looked up his family in the phone book and called, pretending to be a camp counselor. I told his mom that he was causing problems on the bus and that he would be punished or removed from the camp if he didn't improve. She believed me and said she would speak to him. I felt so clever, until the next day when quiet little Eli showed up with a black eye. About 18 years ago, my wife and I wanted to adopt a child, and we were matched with an Asian couple. We promised them the child would be loved, which was true because we instantly fell in love with our baby boy. After about 8 months, though, we started feeling some guilt because our perfect Chinese son was going to grow up in this very Western household with two clueless parents who couldn't give him any real connection to his cultural background or identity. Luckily, there was a big Chinese community in our city, so it seemed obvious that we should introduce him to it as much as possible. We signed him up for Mandarin classes and even built a friendship with a Chinese couple who became his adopted auntie and uncle. We also took family trips to China every couple of years. Fast forward to recently, he's now 17 and getting ready for college. My wife and I are helping him with the financial aid forms and digging through my office for the required documents. That's when I came across his adoption papers and finally noticed something so obvious, so painfully clear that neither my wife nor I in our youthful foolishness had ever realized. The names on the adoption paperwork were Park and Kim. Our son was Korean. What's a messed up fact you just can't believe is real? The youngest person to ever give birth was 5 years old. If bees were paid minimum wage for their work, a jar of honey would cost $182,000. Sharks have existed longer than trees. Yes, trees. During World War II, Japan dropped fleas infected with the bubonic plague on China. Chainsaws were originally invented to cut through the pelvic bone during difficult births. Dogs love squeaky toys because they sound like a small animal being killed. Old fact, but everything we smell is just tiny particles of that thing entering our nose. Smell poop. You've got some poop particles in your respiratory system. I was cleaning the toilet and poured in bleach followed by Harpic toilet cleaner, which contains ammonia. I ended up coughing terribly for 2 days straight. Turns out I had created poisonous chloramine gas. I could have killed myself if I'd stayed in the bathroom much longer. I've heard that in some cultures they torture dogs and then eat them as part of a food festival. Have a nice day. Teachers of Reddit, what is the most unsettling thing a student has ever done? I teach 4-year-olds part-time, which usually means I handle art and playtime in the afternoons. There's this girl in my class, let's call her Mary, who is a small troublemaker that often makes other kids cry. Her actions are very deliberate, a quick hair pull, kicking over a toy, grabbing someone's art. She waits until the other child starts crying before she stops. She doesn't even want the toy, she just wants the reaction. On the other hand, this boy, Jim, is her complete opposite and often the calm voice in the class. He's a gentle giant, the biggest kid in preschool. He shares willingly, is kind during play, and is probably the most considerate person I've ever met. One day during outdoor time, Mary kept picking on Jim. He stayed patient the whole time. She would grab a shovel from him and he would respond nicely, saying it's okay, you can have it. Toys are for sharing, things like that. Quick note, remember those big red and yellow ride-on cars that kids pedal with their feet? The playground has 5 of them for the children to share. Mary was leaning against a wall and Jim was pushing one of those cars. The kids like racing around with them, so that was normal. Jim was probably a good 30 feet away from her when he suddenly started speeding up. He was aimed straight at her like a guided missile. I honestly thought he would swerve or stop at the last second. I was wrong. He crashed the car directly into Mary, smashing her against the wall. I'll never forget how long it took for her to draw in a breath afterward. I was shaking. I thought he had broken her ribs. Her whole back was bruised, but thankfully there was no worse injury. I was too stunned to even get angry. After handing Mary to my co-teacher, I turned to Jim, who was sitting quietly in the corner, and asked why he did that. He just shrugged and said very calmly, I was just trying to take care of our problem. I'm 100% scared of this kid now. What is the grossest thing you've seen in public? At Walmart. An overweight couple in their late 20s is in front of me. He's showing some butt crack and she has her hand lovingly stuck down between those cheeks. She sees something on the shelf she wants, so she pulls her hand out of his crack, shakes it off, and then reaches for the item to look at it before putting it back. I left my cart and went somewhere else. I used to live in Japan and my friend visited and wanted to check out a maid cafe. For those who don't know, a maid cafe is a spot in the geeky area of Tokyo where people go and cute girls in maid outfits with high-pitched voices serve and chat with customers. I was translating and feeling very awkward the whole time, but my friend was enjoying it, which helped a little. Next to us was this overweight boy, maybe 15 years old. You could tell he was a heavy otaku and didn't practice great hygiene. We're eating and his maid comes over, squats down beside him to check on him. He reaches into his nose, pulls out a huge booger with a long sticky string of snot still attached, and eats it right in front of her. True to her role, she cheerfully says, "Was it good, master?" I nearly threw up on the spot. I was so disgusted and overwhelmed with pity for that poor girl. I was completely shaken.